Hi everyone, this is Matthew's Movie Mentions. I'm your host Matthew. I'm going to be talking about the films that I've watched this week, and it's a much better week than it was last time. I would quite like to have a week where I just watch, 6 or 7 films. I seem to be either bouncing high or low at the moment, so we'll see how it goes. Because this week I've watched 10 films. Technically 11 because I watched one of them twice, but that was a whole conversation. In fact, I'll set up here. One of the films, Pacific Rim, I was watching it, decided I wanted to watch it again with my partner who wasn't home, but I was enjoying it so much I didn't turn it off, and then she and I ended up watching it again a couple of days later. The discussion was, am I allowed to count a film that I watched twice in the same year in this? And the decision is generally no, but it depends on if it's my choice to watch it twice or not. So in this case, I could have turned it off on that first time and watched a different film, and then I would have been allowed to count 2 films. So the second watching, I shouldn't be able to count as an extra one. Whereas if it was something like I watched a film at the cinema, and then I've got friends who want to go and see it, or family who want to go and see it, and then I go and see it with them, that's not me choosing to spend time watching that film. It's spending time with those people and watching the film is the thing. So that time I will count it. If it's like I watched a film at the cinema now and then watch it at Christmas again, then I'd probably count it because the moments are quite so separate. But this is not being counted as 2, so it's only 10. I also want to say up top, please do recommend films. I will definitely need lots of recommendations as the year goes on. I will try not to spend however many hours this is going to take actually surfing through Netflix and trying to discover films that I want to watch. I'd like to cut that down and just have a watch list. So email, tweet, Facebook, Instagram, you can find me all over the shop, so please do look me up and say, here's a film I recommend. It can be films that you think are worthy, films that are great. What I'm really looking for are films that are fun and that I'm going to enjoy. I'm much more likely to watch something like that than, here is this unknown classic that I unearthed that's great. I will add both types to the list, but I'm going to be going to a fun recommendation much, much quicker. So, the films I watched this week are The Magnificent Seven, the new remake, Life, The Stanford Prison Experiment, Pacific Rim, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Bill, The Emperor's New Groove, Godzilla Final Wars, Supergirl, and Colossal. So, Magnificent Seven is a remake of a much older Western film, which is itself a remake of a Japanese film called The Seven Samurai. This was just on Netflix or Amazon, so I thought I'd throw it on. I saw the original years ago at university, I think, and I enjoy it, but Westerns aren't something I watch again and again. I enjoy the premise once, but I won't often revisit them. The remake was exactly what I wanted. It was something enjoyable in the background that I didn't have to focus too hard on. I'm not sure I could say it was necessary as a remake, but they did some nice updating of the story and the production, so it wasn't a straight remake. It did some modernization in there as well. Life is a very recent horror film, and it was actually on my list of films to see at the cinema last year, but I didn't for various reasons. I suspect at the cinema it would have been a lot more engrossing. It's a very good claustrophobic horror, but it didn't do anything that I've not seen elsewhere in Alien or in Event Horizon or even Gravity or other films like that. The life form in this, the alien creature, was very well realised. It was visually very interesting. Its behaviour was interesting. The film itself was very tense without it being gory, so that was something, but I wasn't as engrossed at home, I think, because the distractions, because the lights are up, so it's not as intense as it might have been in the cinema. The Stanford Prison Experiment I watched because I enjoyed Ezra Miller's performance in Justice League so much. I'm happy to watch more of his films. I actually studied some of this experiment when I did psychology at university. It was interesting seeing a dramatised version of it, but I don't think a pure drama was actually necessary. I feel like there's a sort of mixed media version that has a sort of overview of the experiment and what happened with some insight from professionals alongside a dramatic reading of the events. I think that would have worked better than just straight watching it and not being sure where it's going or what's necessarily going to happen, because it does kind of peter out a little bit. Interesting and very tense. It was very well told for what it was. Pacific Rim, we're doing for Pop Culturally Deprived in a few weeks, so that's why I wanted to watch that. I saw it at the cinema and loved it. It's still as good now. It is a great film, as I say, half an hour into this, and I wanted to watch it again because it's so good. And there were bits of it that are designed to delight people like me that just want good, fun action. Solid characterization, great action, great effects. It's all a really good film, and I can't wait to talk to Mandy about it on Pop Culture Deprived. Fantastic Beasts. It honestly took me 4 sittings to get through. I wasn't inspired to watch it, but I felt I should, having seen the other Harry Potter films. And then even in it, I wasn't into the characters and I wasn't really into the story. I wasn't hugely involved in the film as it went on. And I actually felt that the main character with the Fantastic Beasts was almost secondary to this larger story they're trying to tell. It felt like what they've done with The Hobbit of trying to make it a number of films with a much larger story rather than focusing on what would be a very good core story. So I suspect if you love Harry Potter, you will love that as well. Bill was the first recommendation on my list, recommended by my friend Katie Charoux on Twitter. I'm not hugely into sort of period pieces or historical dramas at all. It was a very funny film. The wordplay was excellent throughout. Some of the actors didn't ham it up, despite doing lots of different parts and trying to make them different in a Monty Python-esque way, but they actually performed it quite differently. So it was quite fun. I can definitely see if you're watching this with children, this will be really enjoyable because there's some good stuff in there for them. The Emperor's New Groove was actually on when I turned Bill off. It was just starting, so I left it on because it's one of my favourite Disneys. It's very different than most other Disney movies. There's a lot in it that feels like it belongs more in the Disney series of the time. There's a lot of silliness and kind of visual jokes that belonged more to a Tiny Toons Animaniacs type world than to a Disney movie. It's still as good. It's still got lots of very funny visual comedy, word gags, lots of very good characterization that goes to extremes but does it very, very well. So it's so much fun for both adults and children. Godzilla Final Wars I wanted to watch because I've wanted to watch it for ages, and I thought, well, since I've seen Pacific Rim and I'm going to be talking about monster movies, this is a good time. Not as good as I expected it to be. I think I might have been overhyped for it. I knew it was going to be Godzilla fighting most of his major monsters, but actually that's only the second half of the movie, and it would have done better had the movie been about Godzilla going around the world fighting all his other enemies. I can see what they were trying to do with the story and this big climactic thing, but it didn't quite come off, particularly because we've now had Godzilla films since that are better. The more recent Godzilla film was excellent. Supergirl, we watched for an Across the Arrowverse bonus. Don't watch that film. It's not very good. It's not bad. It's just not good. There's bits of it that are questionable, that make no sense, that are just made up to suit a moment in the film without really caring about the audience at home. So I would not recommend it to anyone. And finally, Colossal. I hadn't realised my partner hadn't seen this, so when we saw it on Amazon, we thought, oh, we should watch that because I absolutely loved it when I saw it. This is a film that I would have loved to have seen at the cinema, but I missed it when it was out. Anne Hathaway, in a very different character than she would normally play, a much more of a legitimate screw-up than the sort of ditzy type who has lots of potential and just needs to apply herself that she sometimes seems to play. Colossal has some great moments in it. It's a great concept, and actually the second time I think I got more out of it, seeing how it deals with the abusive relationship, both mentally and physically, and puts it in a different perspective. So yeah, that is a great film. My recommendation of the week, it's probably hard. Colossal, The Emperor's New Groove, and Pacific Rim are all up there. I think I might have to be recommending Colossal this week because I feel fewer people will have seen it. But all three of those, you will not go wrong. You will have a great time watching them. That's just one that I did not expect it to be as good as it was. So go and check that out. Like I say, feel free to hit me up with recommendations at Matthew Rose on Twitter or at Eloquent Gushing for the production company. Next week, I'm not sure what I'm watching. I've started a couple of things that I'm probably hoping to finish, so they should come in there. Let's just see if I can aim for 6 or 7 films and do a sort of very solid week of watching films without going overboard. I'm opening up my calendar because I'm trying to remember what I'm doing for Pop Culture Deprived next week. We are going to be doing The Incredibles, so I need to watch The Incredibles at some point, and I don't think we're doing a movie for Across the Arrowverse, so that won't count in here. It's my mum's birthday, so I'm not going to say any more because it's a surprise. And I'm out on Friday. I might not be able to watch as many next week. So I will see you in week 4 when we will see if we can watch a normal amount of films. Let's just aim for something average. At least I'm ahead of average now, so that's going to earn me a little bit of slack when we get there. See you in week 4.